Hello there. Today we welcome Jody Rowe, the founder of Australian consultancy Rowe Advisory. It was soon after the establishment of Rowe Advisory that Jody realised that the contracts and procurement function was also highly undervalued in many organisations, and that there was definitely a gap in the market for good procurement documentation and procedures. And this is why Jody created Promitheia Procurement.
So, my name's Jody Rowe. I am the CEO of a number of companies. We have Rowe Advisory in the UK, we have Rowe Advisory in Australia, and we have our online business, which is Promitheia Procurement. So, my job is really to keep all those businesses moving forward. Having a background of contracts and procurement, I'm quite passionate about where that is now and where it needs to go into the future, and really trying to raise the profile of the procurement profession or drag it up to where it should be, perhaps. So day to day is always hectic, always different clients contacting us for different purposes and things like that. And I think it suits my background running businesses. I've been used to being in major projects and things like that, so I'm used to delivering all the time. So it's very difficult for me to switch off. But in saying that, certainly with Promitheia, it's certainly introduced us to a range of clients we probably would never have if we were with Rowe Advisory, and that always makes it interesting, different industries and things like that.
So I guess with Promitheia, before we go into kind of the nuts and bolts of what it is, I'm guessing you've identified a need for people to be able to access procurement services and expertise in a slightly different way. Is that right?
Yeah. So what I was used to was working in organisations that really managed risk and delivered value in a very complex manner, because it's high, oil and gas is hydrocarbons, mining is complex, it's got high risk areas. So the process and the governance around that was pretty complex. When I came out of that and started doing, Rowe Advisory, and we were, talking and working for a whole range of different clients in oil and gas and mining and contractors and things like that. And they just felt a need to produce a business or a product that was more accessible for a broader audience. And that was so that other organisations could see the value in what procurement was, not just a transactional reactive function. It's a commercial delivery function, and there is a good reason why you manage risk and you look for value delivery. And often enough, these companies just don't have process and procedures and governance, and that's where I thought, okay, these organisations don't necessarily have procurement budgets, so how can I develop something that was much more affordable and a flexible solution, really solving people's problems? And that's where Promitheia came from. A couple of years ago, first, of course, I made it way more complicated than what it needed to be. And the most important thing was trying to get product to market. And the best way of doing that was design the templates for the procurement function and have really good people drafting them. And that's where it came from. And Prometheia stands for procurement in Greek, hence the name.
And so you talk a little bit about using sort of expertise in order to devise these templates. So who sort of were you working with? When this sort of project started, how what was there sort of a team of you, or was it mainly driven by you, and then you brought people on board as you put it together?
Well, fortunately, during COVID, we had a number of people, one in particular, that was stuck in country. And as much as she wanted to travel overseas, it was just a great opportunity, legal background, to work with me to say, okay, let's design what good looks like. And over time, we've used other Rowe Advisory consultants where there is a specialty. So if it's local content, social procurement, things like that, we've honed in on their specialty skills. The intention is, and that becomes one of the challenges, is to make sure everybody understands that we're not there to draft complex templates. They are generic in nature, but they're not intended to be complicated. And I think mainly in part in my mind is that because we want to cater to all sorts of businesses, small to large, and we also want to cater to all sorts of industries. And I also do recognise that when we were drafting them and designing them, that if you're pushing these things into an organisation that's basically had nothing, and we've had numerous clients that turn over a lot of money that have no documentation. You really need to take a step back. You can't inundate organisations with too much process when they've been doing whatever they've been doing for a long time with very little. So it's not about trying to overbear people with too much governance and process, but really trying to get them to focus on risk. That's probably the number one thing in designing it, making sure that what you're putting in place as far as contracts, purchase orders, etc., is suitable for the level of risk, and not just one risk for everything. So, yeah.
I see. And also at the moment, particularly, you said sort of the idea came around during COVID. I guess in a way, the landscape now is even more challenging, isn't it, with sort of rising inflation and rising costs and energy problem issues. So I guess the kind of the need for some of these smaller companies, particularly, to get a more, some kind of a progressive kind of procurement function going is even more kind of important right now, isn't it?
Definitely. I mean, supply chain risks, interest rates went up in Australia again today, quite a lot. We've got gas and electricity constraints. We've got significant issues there because we're exporting quite a bit, and domestic gas, etc., is in demand, just electricity generally. There's a whole range of them, trying to get ships, trying to get pallets, trying to get containers, trying to get people, trying to work out how we can do things smarter with less in the workforce. And you're talking about a substantial amount of people missing. I think our unemployment's 3.4%. So the last thing you need to be able to work quite fast, but also within some sort of process to make sure that everybody's aligned with the decision. And it doesn't matter. Like for me, I mean, our contracting strategy could be 2 pages or it could be 10 pages, but having some deliberate thinking and writing it down and assessing the risk and all of these things in times like this at the moment is a very wise thing to do. We really did want to make it a lot faster for organisations rather than going down if you don't need to go and bring in a whole range of expensive consultants, you don't need to. You really don't.
I see. So how does so talk me through if a company has become aware of Promitheia and is thinking this might be a good idea. How in reality does it kind of work? How, if you can sort of explain to me how they get onto the journey, if you like.
Sure. Generally what happens is that people have seen something, a case study, or looked at the website or LinkedIn, etc., and they'll either book a 15-minute free consultation, which is with myself, or they'll go online and then connect in via LinkedIn, and I'll talk to them over the phone. Whichever method works, doesn't really matter. And what I'll do is go through and explain the various different templates, from governance all the way through to supplier relationship management. There's probably about 75, I think, at the moment, and which is always building. And what I'll do is I'll demonstrate to them the types of documents that we have online, including a lot of these documents have YouTube videos attached to them. But we've gone through that process where randomly you'll just get someone that'll go online and they'll buy all the people templates. So skills matrix and all of that for the procurement function development plans. Or we have gone down the path with some pretty big organisations where we've done a gap analysis. So Dylan Odgers, one of the Promitheia team, will go and do a gap analysis, look at a company's existing procedures and make suggestions to which templates would support and what changes they should make. Like I said, the number one thing always comes out that companies look at the risk and put the same process on all of it. And whether it's 10,000 or 10 million, and that doesn't make a lot of sense. Sometimes that independent view on a 10 days work is quite cost-effective way of what should you keep and what should you replace. So it could be from a phone call, a demonstration, a gap analysis, or just starting from a blank piece of paper and just help us.
And what has been some of the feedback like from some of your clients? I mean, have you had sort of certain examples of people who've really, really sort of turned things around and as a result of using your service?
We've had a lot of positive feedback. I don't know about turning things around, but it's replaced a lot of organisations where they've got complex process, because we do try and keep it as simple as possible. I think there's a tendency, even with skills matrix and training needs and development plans for the people within the procurement function, to make it way too complicated. And 9 times out of 10, no one even delivers on these development plans. So why make them so complicated? It just doesn't make any sense. Dashboards, KPIs, and all of those sorts of things, they're all in play at various different organisations. What's probably surprised me the most is, you just get these random purchases from some outback community that will buy a meeting agenda. It fascinates me. Or someone in Sweden. It's really interesting to see the organisations that actually engage because they don't have anything or they need a quick fix. It's a real time saver. It really is.
And I guess the templates themselves are constantly growing in number and in terms of range of discipline too.
Yeah, we are following the United Nations Sustainable Development Guidelines or goals, and one of the ones we've got to focus on is like green procurement. So we're always looking to add and revise the existing templates, which is good because we want to keep things fresh and we want to build the offering to organisations as well, and that's where it's sort of we have enough templates to go to market, but at the moment it really needs to be on that individual purchase basis. And often enough when people have a package of documents together, when they've bought 20 or 30 documents, then we'll talk to them about how we can help them, whether it's a discount or we'll help them with turning those generic templates into their organisation's documents. So, yeah.
And
Did
what
I
is
answer the question? I hope so.
And what has pleased you most about the Promitheia product? What do you think is its real strong points, if you like?
I think the strong points are definitely you have some templates that have been developed by procurement professionals that have worked in tier one organisations across the globe, and they know what good looks like. We've all worked in these complex environments. We've streamlined it down to what is sensible for an organisation, which means that you can go and take the document and you can make it as complicated as you want. But in our view, we've kind of assessed across all the industries, all the organisations, thought, no, this is probably the best solution. What is the best solution for potential clients? I think that's probably the professional document. And I think also affordability obviously comes into play, but it's the speed. So, if I don't have a procurement policy and there's one online, well, I literally have one by paying straight away the same as I would a shirt. Actually, you'll get it faster than what you would delivering a shirt. And then I can customize it straight away and it's done. It's a pretty fast process. I always find it's not so much when we've done this for organisations on a consulting basis without Prometheia. I always find the thing that makes it more complicated is the stakeholder engagement, and you just need to be quite mindful of that as far as you can engage the whole organisation, but really, in effect, do you need to? Uh, I don't necessarily think you do. So it certainly is a far more cost-effective way of doing it. It's a faster way of doing it. You're drawing down on that procurement professional experience, and that to me is probably the winning edge. It's the challenge, I think, for Prometheia or any of these types of things, because you can buy a lot of HR templates and things like that online, is getting the thought process away. Well, I've got to command and control the outcome. Well, you can once you've purchased it, but you've just saved yourself literally a month or two in consulting time.
See, and do you think there's any aspect of Prometheia and what you're offering that you don't think you've sort of covered so far that you think you'd like to put in? Because obviously with this podcast, we can go away and edit it and what have you, so
Sure.
we can, for example, cut this bit of flannel out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, is there any sort of element you don't think we've kind of covered that you'd like to talk about?
I think for me the next stage is to go down the NDAs, confidentiality, purchase order terms and conditions, etc. Suites of contracts, etc. And also potentially to make the website a bit more interactive, so that you're not just downloading a template. I think you could actually do it so it's a lot more interactive with the user, even workflow and things like that. But I have a tendency to make things very complicated, and I just don't. I really don't want to. I just want that reoccurring message that this is really very easy. And most of the clients that we've had, I mean, it's been fascinating. Like I said, the range from very, very small to ASX 50 companies. It's just fascinating. And they're all looking to save money and to do things faster. And I know for a fact that if you want to draft process and procedures internally within your function, it's extremely difficult to do because it's not necessarily a capability thing, it's more of a capacity thing. It takes a long time. We're at one organisation for 2.5 years redrafting procedures. Takes an awful long time to do that, and then you've got to have the expertise and consulting rates and all of that sort of stuff. So I think I'd like to make it a lot smarter. And I'd also like clients to utilise the consultants more with the online capability and using subscriptions, because at the moment with the advisory, there's such a shortage of people and there's the activities massive at the moment, and you can just go online and buy a subscription and you've got someone a few days a month. That's again, I think it comes down to a command and control. We still, although we've been through COVID, we're still not convinced we want them in front of them, us, we want them to be employees. It's really quite interesting. I think that we've drifted back when it comes to the people side. So I think I went all over the place. But at the moment, we're starting to issue a few case studies around what Prometheia's done, and that's going through that gap analysis, looking and reviewing what they've got existingly, and then working with the clients to work out which are the documents that they need, and even putting in dashboards, what KPIs you should use for your size organisation. Obviously, we don't have access to ERPs, but it's all intelligence that you can use, or how to structure your organisation, and they're documents that you've got forever.